I can move.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you all for coming over today for an important announcement. I'm, first of all, proud to have recently signed a proclamation declaring January as the National Modern Slavery and Human Trafficking Prevention Awareness Month in the state of Louisiana. Eradicating human trafficking and preventing more suffering and helping survivors to regain control of their lives is something that Donna and I are both passionate about. We have been for a long time, and we've been speaking out and taking action. And this happened after first learning about human trafficking years ago. We knew that we had to get involved and become fierce advocates against it. You all know I'm from a small town. My hometown is Amite. Quite frankly, it never occurred to me that human trafficking might be happening in my hometown. But in fact, it was, and it is, and it's really happening in every community across our state and across the country. The numbers are startling. It really is everywhere. And so it's all of our problem. And that's why today I'm pleased to support Donna in her big announcement she'll make in just a minute to increase the public awareness about this egregious crime. I'm proud to say that our efforts here in Louisiana are gaining national and international attention and, more importantly, making a difference here. And I want to thank Donna and the many who've joined her in spreading the word. She's taken on this issue as one of her priorities since coming into the governor's mansion with me. She's actually held global summits convening first spouses, international, national, and state leaders from across the globe. And I do want to tell Donna how proud I am of her and all of her tremendous efforts and her hard work on this issue. Not long ago, I announced the opening of the new Governor's Office of Human Trafficking Prevention. I appointed Dr. Dana Hunter to lead the office. Dr. Hunter has demonstrated a strong commitment and expertise in programs and practices to help vulnerable children during her role as Children's Cabinet Director. And she's done a phenomenal job already as the director of this new office. Under her leadership, Louisiana has secured nearly $2.7 million from the federal government to better address this issue. In fact, last month I announced that Louisiana and Colorado were the only two states in the country to receive $1.5 million grant from the U.S. Department of Justice to improve outcomes for child and youth victims of human trafficking. The Louisiana initiative that we are undertaking will put dedicated staff across the state in a coordinated effort to improve victims and survivors' access to care and services, again, in every part of our state. I do want to acknowledge the staff that I have at the governor's office and really all of our state agencies, all of the cabinet officials, our NGO partners for their hard work in implementing these important efforts. And, for example, I want to congratulate Dr. Sean Wilson, who is the Secretary of the Department of Transportation and Development, because they've received a national award from the U.S. Department of Transportation. They were awarded they were awarded the Combating Human Trafficking in Transportation Impact Award for their proposal to reach up to 5.3 million road users. And that's why I say this is everybody's issue. We all have to work together. It's in everybody's town, and these are our young people, and sometimes not so young, and they're boys and they're girls, and they're everywhere. And so I know that our efforts are making a difference. It is a daunting challenge, but we're going to keep fighting, and that's what this is about. I do encourage everyone to be aware of this crime, to learn the signs, to tell someone if you're a victim, or if you suspect that someone else is a victim. So join us in the fight. Be a voice for the voiceless. So I want to thank you again and ask Donna to come up and share some information with you at this point.
Thank you, John Bell, and I'm equally proud of you and your leadership in supporting this issue. It's so very important. And good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for coming out and being here. And I want to echo a lot of the things that my husband just said. This is such a priority for us both. When I meet with victims and hear their personal stories, it inspires me to truly continue to use my platform and my voice for those children and adults, victims who have no voice, and to educate leaders and other people on how to recognize trafficking. You know, the average age of a trafficked victim is 13. And so, you know, the ages in our state go from anywhere from 2-year-olds to 60-year-olds. So it is a wide gamut there. I believe wholeheartedly that education is one of the best tools for prevention, and this is why over the last several years I have supported and hosted statewide, national, and international summits. As we have all had to deal with the challenges of the pandemic, it became even more important to continue this work and to raise awareness about this crime in our state. So we were able to bring together first spouses, global, international leaders, like you mentioned, through Zoom, like many of you all did during the pandemic times. These summits grew so quickly. In fact, the last summit that we had over 600 registrants to sign up to be a part of this summit. I have also established a national coalition for the prevention of human sex trafficking, where 6 first spouses from other states have joined me and committed to using their platform as well in their stance for supporting the prevention of human sex trafficking. So I'm here today to announce the coalition's first big event to launch Louisiana's first public awareness campaign entitled Stop Trafficking Louisiana. Human Trafficking is Real, R-E-A-L. And the REAL stands for R, recognizing the signs, E, educating others, A, acting immediately, and L, listening and supporting victims. And I believe if we make an effort, all of us, to do each of these action steps together, we can work toward the prevention of human trafficking in our state. The launch of this campaign will be held in April of this year in conjunction with the NCAA Men's Final Four Championship Tournament in New Orleans. Why? You may ask, is because large sporting events often are the perfect environment for the crime of trafficking to flourish. So we wanted to kick it off around a larger event so we could have this campaign as people drive in and come in to our state. They know that we're saying no to trafficking. Remember, if you see something, say something. We hope to educate the general public, and today we're officially launching the campaign, Stop Trafficking in Louisiana. In the coming months, as you travel our state, you'll see more information on how to identify and report human trafficking, and you can start to by going to stoptraffickingla.com. So stoptraffickingla.com. And also, you'll see us on social media. And I just want to thank everyone who has joined me and John Bell in this fight. It means so much to us, but it still remains even more to the many victims and survivors who need our help each and every day in our state. And at this time, it is my pleasure to introduce someone who has certainly been in the trenches with us, Dr. Dana Hunter, Director of the Governor's Office of Human Trafficking Prevention. She is a true advocate and dedicated to making a difference. Dr. Hunter has some very exciting news for our next steps statewide, and I just want to thank everybody for coming out and the work that we're going to do together and really sharing the information with the public. So thank you. Dr. Hunter?
Thank you, First Lady Edwards and Governor Edwards. It's just such an exciting time for our state, and we're so thankful for the launch of this new campaign, Stop Trafficking Louisiana, Human Trafficking is Real. It is truly an honor to serve alongside leaders who don't just talk the talk, but truly walk the walk. Leaders who are truly committed to this work. And Governor and First Lady Edwards have been chief leaders in our state, ending to end the fight against human trafficking, and we're so grateful to have them at the helm. I am so deeply honored that they would entrust me with the task of leading this statewide effort to address this crime. I know that God is with me. It takes the Lord to be with us in this fight, And I stand daily with leaders and survivors across this state to implement the best programs and the most promising practices to prevent and combat human trafficking and to promote justice and healing for victims and survivors. This is the mission of the Office of Human Trafficking Prevention. And every effort will be developed and implemented with input from survivors. We believe in and operate through a survivor voice and survivor-informed framework. Nothing about them without them. The state of Louisiana and the Office of Human Trafficking Prevention has convened a council of survivor leaders, which we're so proud of, who educate us on best practices and provide detailed information to inform our trainings. And speaking of survivors, the Office of Human Trafficking Prevention is pleased to announce today that we're now launching the state's first ever web-based Human Trafficking Prevention Resource Center, an online resource center for everyday citizens, stakeholders, service providers, victims, and survivors to learn basic information about human trafficking, what to look for, how to report, and how and where to find resources in the state of Louisiana. This site has an interactive map that provides region-specific resources and services for victims. And we're so pleased that victims, we had several focus groups and meetings with survivors and victims to help educate us on what this website should look like and what was needed for this resource center. The theme and logo for this site, provided to us by a survivor, is the koi fish, a Japanese symbol used in Japanese art and culture, which stands for courage, resilience, and perseverance, facing trials boldly. We encourage young people, students, citizens, service providers, victims to visit this site to learn more about human trafficking and the symbolism of our koi fish. To visit the site, go to www.humantrafficking.la.gov. Thank you all, and may God bless each of you, and may God bless the state of Louisiana.
Thank you, Dana and Donna, and we will entertain a few questions, should you have them.
Yes, what changes are we going to see on a day-to-day basis because of these initiatives?
Well, you're going to see a lot more efforts in terms of promoting awareness, whether it's the effort I talked about, DOTD, reaching folks who are motorists. You're going to see some billboard campaigns, but a lot more promotion of this resource center so that people know how they can educate themselves on what trafficking looks like. You know, that's one of the most important things, because forever we just assumed that people who were engaged in certain conduct just weren't good people. Maybe we looked at them as criminals, prostitutes, delinquent juveniles. But there are telltale signs of when that is not being done of their own free will, and they are actually in modern day human slavery. And so just promoting all of that, making sure that these resources are available, people know how to access them, and so forth, in addition to the education, I think is going to be critically important. But you're going to see us continue to lead, and not just here, but across the country, because it isn't like this is a problem that we can solve on our own. There's an awful lot we can do, but we know studies have shown that two of the corridors that facilitate human trafficking in the country to a very large degree are the I-20 and I-10 corridors across Louisiana. We know that large events, especially sporting events, tend to be magnets. And so you have these criminal actors who are actually bringing in human trafficking victims, boys, girls, old, young, you name it, mostly sex trafficking, in order to service their clientele. So all of these efforts are going to continue. They're going to be extremely important. And I will tell you, we are recognized around the country as having not just the laws that are the strongest with respect to sex trafficking, but the broadest in terms of their approach. and the effort that we make across a whole of government. So, for example, this isn't just the state police and the fire marshal's office. It's DCFS, it's LDH, it's DOTD. It's obviously headquartered in the governor's office under Dana Hunter. But there's just so much more that we have to do. And one of the things that we're excited about is this network of survivors that we have in place to inform us as we move forward so that we can continually get better and find out from them what a best practice looks like because they know how these bad actors operate. They know what we need to be looking for and how to educate people. And I think one of the most important things that we've done, and I had an opportunity to meet with a number of survivors here at the Governor's Mansion last week, but one of the most important efforts that we've undertaken thus far is to establish that network formally so that they can tell us what it is that we need to do better. And I think it's going to make all the difference in the world. Yes, ma'am.
So this is a statewide issue, but do you know where, maybe what region in the state is the worst?
No, I don't. Look, this is a problem that has probably always existed. It's not one that we've always recognized or talked about. But we know it's all over the world. It's all over the country, and it's here in Louisiana. It's in small rural communities. It's in our urban areas. And quite frankly, sometimes the crime is happening here in Louisiana, and the victims are not even from our state. I was just mentioned sometimes they're brought in order to be available for people who may be attending events and so forth. And so, I'm not going to hazard a guess as to where it's worse. I can only tell you with absolute certainty it's sufficiently serious everywhere that we all need to be engaged in this effort. Yes?
What was your thought when you learned that Sean Payton was thinking the same?
Well, first of all, that happened just a few minutes ago in terms of me learning it. But I think there have been some signals here over the last few days that this might happen. I can only tell you that I'm as old as the Saints are. They were born about the same time I was. And he's obviously our winningest coach. He's had the longest tenure as head coach, won the most games, and won a Super Bowl. And the divisional championships that he won. I mean, obviously just made a tremendous contribution, not just to the Saints as a franchise, but to New Orleans and to the state of Louisiana. I think the relationship that he had with Drew Brees for most of that time will be one that goes down in the history books of the NFL. So I just wish him nothing but the best. Because not only is the Saints and I about the same age, but me and Coach Payton are about the same age too. So I know he's a young man. He's 58. He's 3 years older than I am. But I'm sure that he's got a bright future ahead of him. I wish him nothing but the best. And being the eternal optimist and a big Saints fan, I'm already looking forward to who the new coach is going to be. And I don't have any idea, obviously. But I have a lot of confidence in the franchise that they'll pick a new coach and that we'll win again. And by the way, we didn't make the playoffs this year, but we had a winning record at 9-8 in terms of the Saints. And I know I said he won division championships, Coach Payton did, and he won the Super Bowl. The truth is this was one of the best performances that he turned in over the 15 years as a Saints coach. When you look at all of the problems they had to overcome with serious injuries, with the COVID situation, and all the people who ended up starting who weren't even on our roster at the beginning of the year, and to have a winning season and to be in contention for a playoff spot until the Los Angeles Rams decided to allow San Francisco to win at the end of that game. You know, somehow Los Angeles keeps getting in our way, right? But this was one of the finest performances that he turned in as a coach, and so I want to thank him for that. I wish him nothing but luck going forward, and I'm already excited about next year.
Governor, you brought up DCFS, and at the most recent legislative hearing on this topic, victims advocates, some of whom are working with your office, brought out some of the gaps in DCFS as far as being able to recognize and rescue victims from that setting. What can you speak to the efforts about what's being done to close these gaps?
Well, first of all, these efforts are involving DCFS as well. And I can tell you that Secretary Walters is bringing in nationally renowned child advocacy groups in order to look at what our policies and procedures and practices are across DCFS to tell us what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, where we can have improvement. Because while, you know, this is a rapidly evolving situation, not in the sense that it's new, we've had it for a long time, but the emphasis is new, and looking at these individuals as victims instead of criminals and trying to figure out how to help them as opposed to try to incarcerate them. And it takes a change in mindset for everyone. And I can tell you, nobody's more important to this fight than the Department of Children and Family Services. And Marquita fully understands that, and she and I had a conversation along these lines just yesterday.
I'm going to add to that question. So 60% nationwide, 60% of children who are in foster care have some type of connection with human sex trafficking. So it's an issue that we need to address. And lastly, I want people to understand too, as far as trafficking, we need to be aware that children on social media, children on different platforms of social media, I won't call which ones out, but there's grooming processes that a lot of these predators take, and it doesn't happen overnight. It happens over a year. If you take time to watch the short documentary or video, or maybe it's a movie called 8 Days, of a situation that happened in Texas, it will bring to light that this happens to good families behind, you know, good situations too. And so it happens a lot in our school systems. And so I won't go into the specific details, but we need to educate ourselves as parents, educate ourselves as grandparents and aunts, and people who have young people in their lives. You need to really be aware of this trafficking, grooming process, that it's real and it can happen to any children, and we need to understand how and the signs. So that's what this is about.
Okay, one more question.
Unless you don't have one.
All right.
Look, thank you all for
Thank you so
being
much.
here this afternoon, and thank you.